Hello and welcome to week 7 of our PSPA 303 state and local government course. I hope everybody enjoyed their Turkey Day holiday, was able to connect with family in some way, shape, or form. Of course, trying to stay as healthy and safe as we can, but hope you enjoyed your holiday. And and now we're digging into week 7. And just a couple of weeks left in the course, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Everybody's doing well. As I always say, effort is important. I appreciate the effort and hard work. Writing has improved. I've noticed that, and looking forward to everybody finishing strong in the course. So we're on, as I said, week 7, modules 13 and 14, chapter 9 in the book, and it starts out getting into policy formation, state and local policy. And the lecturer does a really good job. I think he tends to do a good job breaking down these concepts. He first presents who gets to participate, who are the actors in that process. And he gives us the legislature, judges, the executive, bureaucracy, and then the private citizens and interest groups. And that bureaucracy piece, he touches on street level bureaucrats. I think that's an interesting concept. You'll see some questions about that in some of the work that is assigned to you. But even just conceptually, the idea that there are a lot of people that he's listed that are more further removed from the laws as they hit the ground. But there are some people, at the bureaucratic level who are, professionals staffed in our governments that interact with citizenry in a way that they maybe can interpret, how a law or ordinance or policy is implemented. And they impact the experience that citizens have with those rules. And that's the street level bureaucrat. I thought that was, even intuitive to kind of consider how maybe, you've experienced interacting with the government, having to go ask a question, being pulled over or stopped by the police, and that person is in a position to interpret the law that we feel could benefit us or hurt us. That happens, with code enforcement, at the municipal level. We're going to talk a little bit about zoning and things like that. The lecturer uses the example of social workers. So that just the idea of a street level bureaucrat, I think that's it's an interesting idea, and we probably can consider ways that we've interacted with that level of bureaucracy. I also appreciated how the lecturer broke down welfare, the concept of welfare, and just how broad the literal definition is versus the scope of what we understand when we hear the word, and how he gets into means tested and corporate welfare, things like that. Bless you, baby. And so I appreciated that welfare conversation. Yes, baby, but wait a minute, okay? Almost done. Module 13, also, there's a writing assignment where, they talk about school funding. And, I thought that was interesting, just considering the work that I've done in my career. I've mentioned that I was working with a nonprofit called the United Way. And I was leading an effort called Strong Neighborhoods. And in that effort, I was doing neighborhood level community development, trying to engage and organize citizens around local problems, try to create solutions. And a lot of that work, it was kind of efficient way for me to work with groups of people through elementary schools, because the neighborhoods in my community are zoned to where your family will attend specific schools. So the schools were kind of an easy touch point. And I did a lot of work with some really good principals at these schools that leveraged a set of funds called Title I funding. which is wasn't touched on in the book, but Title I funding is federal dollars that some schools are have access to based on the demographics of the student body, and they can use the funds to try to, you know, provide more support. And these principals I work with, they did some creative things to get more engagement. And one of the things they did, they used those funds to pay for school buses to travel and provide transportation to families to get to events at night. Um, so it was just a really interesting way to leverage those funds. Like I said, they didn't really touch on Title I funding in the book, but you know, those policies, how they come together, and how citizens, how administrators leverage those funds to try to serve in their community. So get into module 14, where we talked about the urban growth policies. It's really interesting. Again, he breaks down who participates: the government, the private sector, and then the citizens. But what was interesting here is that whole carrot and stick concept, and how, you know, communities have ways to support growth or kind of mitigate growth in ways that they don't see fit. You know, really the idea of having a plan and planning for your community's growth, I think, is really smart. Some communities are in a better position to do that because of resources or, you know, strong leaders. But I think that's something that is healthy for communities to do. And you know, the work I do is around economic development and supporting businesses. And when I was at the, you know, street level, when I was more of a street level bureaucrat, I was with the City of Rockford, Illinois, managing a program called Business First. This is something you can look up. It's called Business First, where I worked with the other regulatory agencies in the community as it relates to business. So the Water Reclamation District, the Health Department, our zoning and code enforcement team. We also had the Small Business Development Center in. We had all these people around one table and allowed for entrepreneurs to schedule a free consultation to get a better idea of, you know, in terms of, you know, urban growth and planning, what our zoning requirements said about where they can locate their business, you know, what regulations were in place as it relates to water use and things like that. So it was, that was the, I guess that was a stick, you know, it's about regulation, but it was really a really good service that is innovative. And a lot of communities don't do things like what we did in Rockford with Business First. But that's kind of a street level piece, you know, and it's also related to trying to manage for growth and provide, you know, information to allow for growth to take place in a healthy way. Another thing that was discussed is the urban fiscal stress, I think, which is really interesting. Just to consider what, you know, cities are responsible for, and you know, how sometimes they're not always provided with funds to make those things happen. And these are challenges. You know, not sure how you guys are going to pursue careers, but in the public sector, these are things that you'll have to deal with. You know, how are we going to make sure we accomplish our goals given financial constraints? And he again breaks it down pretty well. Talks about, you know, are we going to increase our productivity? Are we going to reduce our cost? Are we going to raise revenues? And all of the challenges that come along with trying to make those decisions. So again, module 13 and 14, really interesting stuff per usual. We're in chapter 9, almost through the entire book. And as always, if you have questions or concerns, feel free to contact me. I'm happy to be a resource. And with that, have a great day.